is up, beautiful people? We have Janelle and Don on today. They are amazing people. I've been talking with them for like a really long time. I haven't talked to you guys in a while, but like we've been on and off talking for like really long time. Astro, like different communities we're a part of. And I just realized I was like, why didn't I have these guys on? They're like amazing. They're doing cool stuff. We've never had, I don't know if we've had like an insanely long conversation, definitely not face to face. So I'm excited to have both of you guys on, and thank you guys so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. We're happy to be here and finally talk to you a little bit more about our story and just share our experience so far.
Absolutely, man. And again, thank you for all the help way back when you were the California wholesaling wizard. It's obviously a crazy market to wholesale in. So it was cool to thank you again for all the help back then.
Always. So real quick, talk to us about like, what's your real estate resume, if you will? Like, what are you guys doing now? What have you guys done in the past? All of that good stuff. Like, let's just get into just a quick bio on you guys.
Yeah. So we are out-of-state flippers. So we are based out of Maui, Hawaii, and we wholesale and flip in Cincinnati, Ohio. We got our start with long distance real estate investing, though. We were based out of Southern California, and then obviously it's very expensive in that market, and we weren't really sure how we were going to build our real estate portfolio or anything like that. So we decided to invest out of state in Indianapolis, and we bought our first long-term rental off of the Bigger Pockets marketplace, actually from a wholesaler. Nice. We bought our first rental for $19,000 and put about $30K into it. It was a triplex. Did the whole BRRRR method, made a lot of mistakes on that, is what it is. And that kind of catapulted our career into out-of-state investing and just the real estate investing career path as a whole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we basically started off in real estate, though, I was a mortgage broker and Janelle was a real estate agent. And so in 2019, that's when we bought our first property, scaled up to 18 units, 16, 18 or something in the first year. And then we're like, okay, well, we're out of capital. So what next? And that's when we started wholesaling and flipping and doing more of the income producing active income instead of just passive.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. So what are we doing right now? Like generally, like how many wholesales are we doing either every year, every month? How many flips? How many buy and holds? Like what's the business look like at this stage currently?
Yeah. So last year we were at 20 and this year we want to double that to 48. I guess a little over double. And we're trying to pivot our business mostly to flipping now. So not as many wholesales. We really like the flipping model, and we have a great contractor and realtor out in the Cincinnati area now. So it's just been a lot easier to do that. And just with our lifestyle, living remotely or working remotely and living in Maui, especially with the time difference, because it is a 6-hour time difference.
It's brutal.
It is brutal. Flipping is just a little bit easier to handle and manage than wholesaling is, because we're not having to connect with as many buyers or people as much. So it's been great. We absolutely love flipping property.
Yeah. So and last year with the 20 deals, it was probably like 70-30, 70% wholesales. Now we're looking at probably like 60, probably another 70-30, but 70% doing the flips and then wholesaling the ones that make sense to wholesale.
I love it. And we'll get into that too, especially like who should be wholesaling and who should be flipping. I love having that conversation with people who do both of those things. I do both. I've leaned much more towards the wholesaling side. I'm probably like 95. I'm probably 90% wholesale, 5% buy and hold, and 5% flipping. Right? Like I'm personally not as big of a fan of flipping. I keep all the creatives. If there's every once in a while a deal, I'll keep it if I'm forced to. But like I just love wholesaling. I think it's one of the best methods. So
yeah.
That's incredible. It's amazing, right? And there's a lot of people watching now who maybe done a deal, maybe never done any deals at all. So when you guys were just starting out in real estate investing, what were your fears? What were the things you guys had to get over? I mean, being a mortgage broker, being a real estate agent, two very different jobs, even though they're in real estate. How did you overcome those fears? And what were the fears? And how did you overcome them in order to be like insanely successful like you guys are today?
I mean, the biggest fear, like basically going broke, losing everything.
Yeah.
That was the biggest fear. But like when we broke it down, like the absolute worst case scenario, because we were investing mainly at lower price points with our own money. And I mean, we were hearing the same thing. Like we listened to all the podcasts, mainly Bigger Pockets, and engaged on the forums, read all the books. And it was at some point too where it all started sounding the same. And it was like, the only next step is to actually take action and do this. And the only way we're going to learn the stuff that like maybe isn't in the books or is just by doing the thing. So we kind of, that was the crossroads that got us to really jump into it. And then I would say
yeah. And I think like the biggest fear of literally going bankrupt, losing it all that kind of stuff. I mean, the alternative to that, like if we were really in a spot, we kind of work backwards from there. Like, okay, if everything literally fails, we lose all of our money, everything, right? Like what's the worst case scenario to that? Worst case is we get a job. Like it's not, I don't know.
Right.
It just wasn't that scary when you think of it that way. Like the worst case scenario, we move back with our parents probably and have to get a job. Like that sucks, tail between our legs type of thing, but that's not that bad, I guess.
I'm going to throw it out there. Having a job, pretty scary. Going to throw it out there.
I know,
Pretty
right?
terrifying.
you got to do what you got to do. Though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just kidding.
So, yeah, when you think about it that way, it was just like, okay, I think we can do this. Like, obviously, we don't want to lose all of our money. We're going to do everything we can to not do that. But if worst case is we just get a job at the end of this, all right.
Yeah. And I mean, we started investing when we were like 23, 24.
Yeah.
So like we were younger, we didn't have kids, we had 2 dogs, and we lived in a condo, and our living expenses were pretty low. So the kind of the net at the end of the month that we had to cover wasn't too crazy. So we were in a position to be able to like basically go all in with real estate from the get-go, which has been good.
Yeah, I'm sure it's different with people that have kids and all that, you know, like having to feed your family and do all that. But for us, it was just us two. So the stakes weren't as high, I would say.
Yeah.
It was a little bit easier for us to take more risk in the beginning because it was just us two in our 20s trying to figure out this thing people call life. So
I totally agree in the sense that I also started in my 20s. Like I started when I was 25, just in real estate investing in general. And I think it's way easier starting broke, personally. I think it's way easier when you don't have anything to lose at all. Everything is it's just based on you. It's like worst comes to worst, you just end up in your parents' basement. That sucks, right? But it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. You just get a job. That's what would happen, right? So I totally agree with you guys there. And I think it's like a really important thing for people to understand is like, what's the absolute worst case scenario? I think people should run through that more. It's usually not as bad as you think it would be, right?
Right.
Generally. Like this is something that I think about now. Like even if, let's say, I don't even think it'd be possible because I have like a rental portfolio, but let's say like I somehow just lost everything like today. What would hit me more, honestly, is like moving back with my parents would suck. I think it would almost be like the ego thing at this point, because like, I think now I'm more afraid of the ego. Like, oh, now I look like a fraud because I was making all this money and now I'm making nothing or I'm bankrupt. Right. So in that way, it feels like there's more to lose because of that in a weird way. I feel like in that way, in the way of losing everything, I have more fears related to that now than I did in the past, even though I don't know if it's possible. So follow-up question basically is, do you guys have any fears you guys are dealing with right now? Like, what do you guys feel like if you guys have fears, like what do you deal with now and how do you overcome them? Not just from when you were at the beginning.
Yeah. Now I think it still involves money, but now it involves other people's money, right? Because we have been raising, we use private money. So just friends, family, people from our social media following that want to invest with us. And we take that very seriously. One of our very first investment, it was our very first investment. We were private money lenders on a property in a project, and we invested $35,000 and we never saw it again. So we know what it's like to lose money, and it sucks. And to have that person that you trusted so much completely ghost you, not return your calls, not give you an update, do all that kinds of stuff. And it's like the worst feeling in the world, just feeling like you got scammed. So that's something that like we never want our investors to feel like. And we always want to be able to answer our phones and call them, like give them updates, have even a backup plan if things don't go according to plan that we discussed, all that kind of stuff. But I think that's our biggest fear right now is losing other people's money, because that's just
I
horrible.
agree with
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
I'd agree.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So how do you overcome those fears? Like the beginning ones, the ones now, like I get it. Like there are I have fears with private money a lot of the times because like things can happen. I've never lost anyone else's money, but I've done a deal with other people's money, and then I'm like, damn, I'm out 30 grand. Like I'm gonna pay them
Mhm.
back, but I'm out 30 grand because the deal didn't
Yep.
go as well as I wanted it to, right?
Mhm.
So how do you guys overcome those fears? What do you do to get over fears in general? Like I think people don't have methods on how to do it, and I think more successful people have better answers for these types of questions.
Yeah, I mean, how we overcome those fears and like actually use other people's money is we have those systems and processes in place. Like we do everything to make ourselves as best as possible, like the best investors that we can be. So like ongoing education, but also like again, having those contingencies in place should like the project go longer than the loan amount. Like we have extra fees that we'll pay the lender. And again, our numbers that we run in the very beginning are ultra conservative, but they're also like, hey, if we have to take it down and make it a rental or something, like there's money in there for like equity in there for a refinance or something that way too. So just making sure the systems and processes are in place for when the worst case scenario does happen.
Mhm.
Just being prepared.
Yeah. And I think it's also just kind of like what we did in the beginning is working backwards from our fear. Like, okay, if this does happen, what does that look like? What would reality look like in that sense? Right. And how can we avoid it? What is everything we're going to do in our power to make sure that bad thing doesn't happen? So in our case, it's losing other people's money, right? Like we do not want to let that happen. If we do that though, like let's say the deal doesn't go according to plan and we can't get them their investment back, because we can't sell a deal or whatever, right? Like what can we do to make sure that doesn't happen? It's like, okay, well, we sell a property, we pay our investor back, we do more wholesales, we do like a bunch of wholesales that month to make sure our investors get paid back, or make sure we finish the project or whatever, right? So like we always have those contingency plans in place just in case something does happen.
Mhm.
And I think that's the best way that we work backwards from our fear, figure what's worst case, and then how do we avoid worst case at all possible.
Mhm. And for like our situation specifically, like investing in Cincinnati, that was a new market to us, like about 2.5 years ago. And like we wholesaled there for like two years, like a year and a half solid. Like we didn't take down a single property. And we did that to really learn the market, understand what other investors would constitute as a good deal. And we just got super detailed and super knowledgeable about that market. So when an opportunity did come into place, we felt confident enough to take it down ourselves and even leverage other people's capital, taking that risk, knowing that the deal will work out because of our team and the scenarios we've seen in the past with other investors.
Right. And even the deals that we did wholesale in Cincinnati, like we kind of always kept tabs on them just to see what our buyers would do with them, because I wanted to see the renovations and how they transformed the property. But what's cool about that is we were able to have this almost kind of portfolio in a way where it was like, this is a deal that I found, I sold it to this buyer, he did all this to it or she did all this to it, and it sold for this. So it's like, that's the deal that I can find, and that's the deal that I have found. When we present to a private money lender or whatever, or I present a deal, it's like we still have kind of that rapport built up because of all the deals that we've already wholesaled in the area, and we can bring those case studies to the private money meeting and just show them what's possible with the deals that we're able to find. So that's been really, really cool.
I love it so much. And I feel like it's a cool thing to see, right? And it's why I love wholesaling, is like you can screw up without really any consequences, and you can just learn that way until you get to the point where you could start flipping on your own if that's what you really want to be doing, right? So let's get into this conversation, because I think it's a really good conversation. What do you feel like, especially as someone who does both? I have my answers to this, but what do you feel like makes the difference between someone who in the end should be much more of a wholesaler or should be much more of a flipper, right? Like obviously you guys are switching your business model so it's more flipping, right? What is it to you guys that like makes the difference, right? Like what is it that you guys are like, okay, I think these types of people should be flippers and I think these types of people should be wholesalers? Or do you think everyone should do both? Or what are your guys' opinions on that? I have mine, but I'm curious what your guys' is, especially since you guys are now switching from like more wholesales to less wholesales.
Yeah. I think, well, for one, I feel like they are pretty different skill sets when it comes to wholesaling and flipping, right? Because with wholesaling, that is like a huge, massive relationship type of business where that's all you're doing. You're building relationships with sellers, with other wholesalers, realtors, that kind of stuff to find your deals. And then you have to develop the relationship with the end buyer to dispo those deals, right? So, but with flipping, you almost only need to build the acquisition relationship side of things, like with wholesalers, realtors, and some direct to sellers. Not nearly as much as you would wholesalers, because you can, as if you're wholesaling, because you can have like your key people that always bring you deals as a flipper, right? But instead of dispoing and finding buyers to buy your deals, now you're completely different skill set of remodeling the property and then selling it, right? So I think those are like the two key differences. If you're more of like a relationship type of person and you just love that side of the business, wholesaling is great for you because that's all you're doing. You're just working with people, with title, with escrow, with buyers, sellers, other wholesalers, all that kind of stuff. But with flipping, if you like more of like management, design, turning things from something not super great to something great and seeing that process, then I think that is great for you to do. Also, your patience level, I would say as well, because wholesales, you're able to crank those out pretty quick, right? So if you love those constant hits and that kind of more of like a constant gratification than the delayed, then that's another big thing too. Because with flips, it's more of a delayed gratification because you have to wait a little while before you see the transformation and the profit come through. So it just depends on what kind of person you are, I would say.
Also, like time available. I think if, in my opinion, or just what I've seen, I don't have to put as many hours into flipping because the contractor is cranking out the job. Obviously, like it's up to us to make sure we have enough deals in the pipeline for the next project, and then and selling the ones that are ready to be sold. But like when you're wholesaling, like you have to like either cold calling, bang the phones, or continually working relationships with other wholesalers to like JV with. It's more like, I would say, labor intensive. You can kind of set a flip on cruise control for a little bit if for some reason life comes up. That would be my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, no, I agree.
I love that. I love that so much. That totally makes sense and totally how I feel exactly. I hate managing things at all. I'm just going to be honest. Like I love just talking to people, doing the relationship type of stuff. I could care less what the freaking house looks like. I like solving the problem and I like just talking to people all day. So it totally makes sense. And I mean, that's exactly how I feel too, with the sense of why I don't do flips that often. I only do flips when like I'm forced to, when like either a buyer's screwing with me or like it's just so insanely good that it's just stupid not to. Generally, when it's just so easy, those are all super rare, but it happens. I probably do like 1 or 2 a year because of that. And I do like way more wholesales. Right. But I really like that. I like that idea of like what it is too. I'll also mention, just to add on, I think risk appetite as well, right? Like how much are you willing to be a little bit riskier? Like flipping is riskier. You will lose some, right? It just eventually is going to happen where you're going to lose money on a flip, which kind of sucks after you put in the work, right? You'll never lose money on a wholesale. You just lose time, which is also which is money in a way, right? Like it's just you're losing time instead of like legitimate money. So I think that's another thing to mention to people about like which one they decide. But I love both. I think they're both incredible ways to make money, and it totally makes sense. So for you guys now, we did like a ton of buy and holds. We're doing flipping, wholesaling. Where do we want to go? Like, what's our goals right now? Sounds like we're going to be doing way more flipping. Are we also going to be doing way more buy and holds? Like, what's our end goal? What's like the dream for Janelle and Don?
Yeah. So the dream is to be able to set up our flipping and our acquisition side of the business and kind of put that a little bit more on autopilot and kind of just let that run. We really like the way that our business is being set up right now, where we can be a little bit more hands off with it and kind of just let our team go. Our team has a really fluid style right now, where they're kind of just able to collaborate together and not always need our input right away unless we're submitting an offer, which is super cool. So I'd love to do more of that type of business, and then use the profits from our wholesaling and flipping to buy more rentals. And at the very end, I would love to get into the 10 to 50, 70 unit range buildings. I feel like that is a niche that not a lot of people have mastered yet, because it's just pretty difficult compared to the smaller, anywhere from 2 to 4 units, even 6-unit buildings, that kind of stuff. But like hedge funds and those bigger funds won't touch buildings that are usually under 100 units because it just doesn't make sense for them. So I'd love to master that little niche in apartment buildings so bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, getting our deals or getting our flip count up to like 50 in the next like year and a half, and then up to 100 a year would be awesome. That we would love to do that.
We want to get it to 50 a year.
Yep, 50 a year and then 100. 100 is the ultimate goal.
Love it.
Yeah,
Awesome.
preferably in a couple different markets as well, because we're in Cincinnati right now primarily, but we have some rentals in Indianapolis. And so if we can do 100 in each market, and then even potentially move back to California, Southern California, and pick up our flipping business there, would be great too.
Let me tell you guys something. If you guys start doing flipping and wholesaling in California, you're not going to get any buy and holds, but I think I have this whole theory. I think California is the best wholesaling and flipping market in the world, right?
Yeah,
I think it's even better flipping market, because the exact same work you guys put into one deal in Indianapolis, or I'm sorry, like 10 deals in Indianapolis, you could get the same profits with the same amount of work for one deal in SoCal, one luxury flip, right? Like I'm assuming in Indianapolis, what, ARV 300K, maybe you're making like 40K profit, 40 or 50K profit per one. And then like in California, you can get 400, 500K per flip. Like that's a possibility, right? So
for sure.
I don't know. That I think flippers should all go to California. That's my view on it.
Yeah,
so
I would love. I
it's a
can't
smart
wait
plan.
to move back there. Yeah, I can't wait to move, because we do want a little place there in California just to kind of bounce back and forth. We love Maui so much that I don't think we would ever like officially leave Maui, but we definitely go back and forth a lot. And I want to pick up our flipping business out in California so bad. It's crazy, because we used to wholesale there too, as you know. And so I think we're now, with everything that we know, I feel like we could really just do some damage in Ventura and LA County for sure.
Absolutely. I think for California specifically, like being in person there, I think is a little bit more important. I mean, it's always a benefit to be local to whatever market you're in, but being remote, we've been able to work on our systems a lot, are forced to work on our systems a lot more. So if we were to bring those systems to California and then be there as well and have the flexibility to like pop in for a month or two, like it would just, man, we kill it. We crush it.
Unstoppable.
I love it. I love it so much. I think you guys wouldn't even need to be there. I feel like if you guys have the systems in Indianapolis, you could just transferring over the same systems to California in the end.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I mean,
right there.
I know, right?
I mean, personally, I don't think you guys need to be there. Like it would, like, I think in the same way that you wouldn't need to be there for the wholesaling, I don't think you need to be there for the flipping if you've already figured it out in Indianapolis. That's a great thing, guys. For the audience, once you get a system for any business, wholesaling, flipping, owning multifamily, once you have the system down, you can replicate it anywhere. All a business in the end is a system. So for everyone who's watching right now, that's literally all a business is. Once you have the system down, you just need to replicate it, and you can do it anywhere, right? So anywho, I just wanted to throw that out there a little bit. Let's talk about partnerships a little bit. I love asking this question, especially with people who, I don't remember if you guys are dating or married. I'm sorry. Are you guys married, dating?
Married, yes.
Married.
Married. Okay, so married. So you guys are married. how do you let's talk on the business side, and then I'll get more to the relationship side. How do you guys split up the responsibilities of the business? How do you guys do that? Right. There are a lot of sub books on it. I think Rocket Fuel is the best one, but I'm curious who does what. How do you guys decide that? How can one work with their significant other? All of that mumbo jumbo.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think actually some of the best business advice that we got about like being a married couple was from Jay and Carol Scott. They're bigger pockets authors and people, and we love them so much. And they gave us the advice too, like what we asked them at like BPCon or something in 2019 when we were first starting. And it's like, how do we effectively work with our spouse? Because they're a husband-wife team as well. And it was like, you need to split up the roles. And it's like that person has absolute autonomy in that space. Now, obviously, like we give each other advice or if we ask for it, but design, for example, like she is a designer. I'm function over like the look of things for sure. So she has the ultimate say over that. I can give my opinions, but she can say, Don, thanks, but no thanks. And it's fine. My feelings aren't hurt.
Yeah. And we've broken up the business in like that in every aspect. So, and how we determined who gets what role is we actually wrote down our strengths and weaknesses. So that's something you just have to be like brutally honest with yourself and with your spouse or significant other. Just like, okay, this is where I struggle the most with. Like, I'm an introvert. I'm not the best at conversing with people, building those relationships and that kind of stuff. That's just not my strength. That's his strength. So I was like, okay, so you're going to handle most of the acquisitions and the disposition side of things. Like I can handle the long-term rentals, managing people and managing things. That's something that I am way better at than he is. So I was like, okay, that'll be my role. So I'll handle all the construction. I can handle talking to our realtors that are already solid and that help us with our flips, and our property managers that help us run our long-term rentals. So, yeah, so that's kind of how we split it up. Just what are our weaknesses, what are our strengths, and then how do all the different roles in the business fit within our strengths and weaknesses. So, and that's been super helpful. So because I have final say over construction, meaning that I have 51% this decision making on construction and long-term rentals, that kind of stuff, and all of our buy and holds and anything that we flip, I also have final say on, and he has the 49%, and then vice versa. If we get in a property and he's going to dispo it or whatever, he gets final say in the price and how we dispo it, who we dispo it to, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of how we split up the business.
Bingo.
I love it. I love it so much. Okay, so curious, and this is just me thinking right now, and I just like giving unsolicited business advice whenever I can.
Sure.
Why not make it where like Janelle, you're just 100% of the design, and then Don, you're like 100% of the dispo. Why even have like a 49% and 51%? Why not just have it be like, I've got all of this. I can just completely handle this, and then you completely handle this. And then it's very spread out, right? Like, I'm just curious because at least when I hear 49%, 51%, it means you're both doing it. And then there's just someone who has a final say at the end, but you're both doing the work on whatever it is. Have you guys thought about that? Have you guys ever thought about completely like being like, honestly, Janelle, you take all the freaking flipping. I'm going to take all the freaking acquisitions. Have you guys ever considered that before? Ever tried it out?
Yeah. So that's kind of how it is. Like I do take a majority of it, but I think with us, because we are both still so involved in our business, how I think of it is if for some reason he gets sick for something, God forbid, like I need to know how to run his portion of the business to keep it going and vice versa, which is why we are both still knowledgeable and know exactly what's going on in each side of it. We just aren't like totally involved in the day-to-day, if that makes sense.
Yeah. And to be clear, like for the design stuff, she is pretty much 100%. I'm not picking out finishes and stuff.
It's not like you're both looking at the finishes and then you choose one, she chooses one. It's like,
no.
okay.
Right. But if I need him to like, hey, I need you to place this order on Amazon for this because I can't do it right now for whatever reason, he can go in and do that. So it's more of like those little things where he's still like slightly involved, but it's not a majority of his day.
Yeah. So
Gotcha.
like for our flips, for example, I handle, because of my lending background, I handle all of the like the private money lenders, the hard money lenders, and
And that
making
makes
sure
sense.
yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. So that is in my wheelhouse. It's under the flipping umbrella, but they're
In
just
my
almost
opinion,
like
that's
different
different.
departments.
Like, here's
Yeah.
how I feel like you guys have split it up, and I think you're doing obviously an amazing job. I'm just gonna explain it to the audience of how what I think you guys have already done, which is, have you guys read Rocket Fuel ever?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
And
so
traction.
it's obviously
Yeah, that's-
Don's visionary, Janelle's integrator. That's what I'm sensing here, right? Just generally personality wise, just what it. I think if am I wrong? I'm not sure. You guys are looking at me like I might be wrong. What do you think? What do you?
So we took there's a test called the crystallizer test, which is basically like the traction and rocket fuel one. And it's fun. We're both actually very high visionary.
Mhm.
I will kind of adapt and like pick up the slack with the integration part. Like obviously we need to hire an integrator like it once we start scaling bigger and bigger. But she is the one who's usually more gives it the like the gusto and like the bigger like, hey, what
Okay.
if we do this? And I'm like, that's crazy, but sounds great.
Yeah.
Okay,
He built
interesting.
out all of our systems and I just tell him what to build because I'm terrible at systems. I'm creating the
Interesting.
system. I can like see it. I know exactly what I want from it. And I think that's why like management wise, I can like tell you what I want. I just won't do it myself. So
Okay, never mind. Then you're both visionaries. That's fine.
Because like
It
he's
is,
good with
it's-
numbers too, and running
Yeah.
making decisions off of them. But
I'm
it's
happy
like
I'm happy to look at a spreadsheet and put numbers in there. I just won't create the spreadsheet. I need somebody else to do that for me.
Okay, that's definitely a very visionary thing to say. So never mind. Maybe you're both visionaries. I just
We're a
assumed
mess.
because you were managing the flips. Usually management is like that goes under operations and stuff like that, right?
For
So it's
sure.
like it's an interesting thing. So then I'm curious because you guys have read the book, you read Traction. How did you guys decide which roles went where? Because theoretically, if you're both visionaries, you both could be doing both visionary and integrator things. Eventually, yeah, you're going to need to, you can hire, like, honestly, like, I partnered up with one integrator at one point in my business, and it was just a terrible idea. And now I have a VA who's like, she is COO level type of person. I'm like, I just gave her a raise today, but like I'm paying her like $10.50 an hour, or yeah, $10.50 an hour, which is expensive for a VA, but for what she's able to do, I'm like, this is insane. You're probably worth triple this, but I don't want to pay you that much. So like maybe even more. But
That's amazing.
yeah. So how did you guys decide what to split then? If like you guys actually kind of have that same personality, visionary type.
yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like stuff still needed to get done. So it was kind of like, okay, what do you hate less?
Right.
And like, but for instance, we did we hired our first VA like a month ago, and it's been great. He logs all of our like expenses and manages the spreadsheets, so that's super helpful.
Love
He
it.
does all the little tasks. But like for me, like calling a buyer or a seller, like a direct to seller, is like the worst thing in the world for me. I could not even imagine myself doing that. If I had to do it, I would, just to move the ball forward. But like he is like, that sounds great. I'd love talking to people, and be like, fan freaking tastic. You do it then.
I
So
love
it's like
it.
that's basically how we decided
Yeah.
who does what.
I'm definitely more like empathetic and like I understand like or just like how to build rapport a little bit more. I mean, she knows how to build rapport, but like
Yeah, but he's better at it than me.
I'm more patient.
Yeah. And
Gotcha.
understanding a little bit more. Like I'm more like, this is where the numbers are. And if they're like, I want 50 grand higher, I'm like, well, you're high. So I don't know what to tell you.
That sucks.
Yeah.
I like that. That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. I love it. So how about working with your significant other, right? Like, I mean, I don't know what the challenges are there. I don't work with my significant other. Like, what challenges do you have to overcome there? What have you guys dealt with as a couple? Because now you're working 24/7 with each other, right? You guys don't have separate jobs. You guys have to be with each other. I mean, I feel like it could be amazing in some ways, terrible in some ways. Talk about those challenges and what you guys deal with and how you overcome those.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So like earlier on, and when I was a mortgage broker, Janelle was a real estate agent, like we'd still work together and like talk about like work problems like all the time. So we instituted like a cutoff rule, like, and it was like after 8 o'clock, we are not talking about work. Like, I don't care if a file's blowing up or something, like it can be pushed to the morning. So almost have that like clock out mentality with it. And that was super, super helpful. Like, I mean, we were going to bed and like, I can't believe this seller is doing this. And it's like 11 o'clock. Like, it was not healthy.
Like, how am I going to fix this escrow?
So that was something that's worked out for us well. And then we also institute, like, we have date nights every week, or the goal is to have it every week. Obviously, some weeks we doesn't happen, but we make it a priority though to make sure we continue to date. Date nights have been really great for us with that. So that's been super helpful.
And we try not to talk about work during date nights too, you know, and kind of just focus, be present, be there, talk about us, our relationship, and and how we can improve, all that kind of stuff. So it's tough though. It's really, really hard to turn off work, especially when you're working
I was
together.
about to say, it's just like, what else is there to even talk about? What's even interesting to talk about other than the real estate at the same time? I have that trouble unless it's like a friend who just isn't in real estate, then I'm forced to, because I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. If the person knows real estate, why not? Why would I talk about anything else? Because it's the most fun thing ever.
Yep, I know. We love it. And it's so fun. So we love being able to share this aspect with each other. And it's nice that my significant other gets it, you know, because it is just so different, especially if you're going to the meetups and doing all the networking and stuff. Like, it can be really taxing on the other person. And there's so much financial stress that can go into it especially when you're first getting started and pouring all your resources into something. Like, it's nice to have that running mate with you who just understands all the ups and downs that you're going through. But then again, it's also tough that your significant other is also going through those ups and downs with you, so your household is just like this the entire time. But having those breaks, the 8 p.m. cutoff, the date nights, and doing fun things like different hobbies together is really, really cool and helpful. Like, we like to go surfing together. We'll go to the beach, watch sunset, snorkel, paddleboard, like just find other fun things to do together that doesn't involve work has been really, really great.
Jonah, we lose you? Did you lose us?
Hold on. All right. Am I back?
Oh,
There. Yep.
Okay. Sorry. I was hearing you guys. I'm like, why is it not letting me click anything? Sorry about that. I'm going to like turn off everything right now. I like stop the Instagram streaming. So, yes, no, I totally get it. I mean, I think that's really cool too. Let's talk about social media a little bit, right? I think you guys have been crushing it there as well. I mean, I follow you guys. I see that you guys have been like doing tons of Instagram content. I don't know if I don't follow anyone on YouTube basically, but I don't know if you guys are doing YouTube content. What made you guys start? What made you guys start doing more of that, more social media, and like, what are you guys trying to achieve from that? Why are you doing it, and how are you growing?
Yeah, so we actually started social media because my broker back in California thought that we had a cool story and that we should share it. And I'm like, okay, sure. So that's kind of how that started. And then it snowballed into this kind of bigger thing where we were meeting a lot of our really close friends now through social media because they're also in real estate and they just got it. And we would meet in person, do fun things together, that kind of stuff. And then as we were sharing our story on social media, we noticed that not a lot of people share the trials and the failures and all the mistakes that they made. It was more just like a highlight reel of people's investing career. And we're like, I know for a fact there's no way they got there that easy. That is not true.
Or else I suck at this.
Right. Like if
one
I'm
of
just
two
the
things.
worst. So that's been a big catalyst for us wanting to share our story even more and put a lot more truthful content out there of like, we just share a lot of our mistakes and everything that goes wrong, things that we've done, like the 35K we lost and all just everything that we've been through, because we want to share all sides of real estate, not just the good, but also the bad and the ugly. So that's what we try to be. We try to be as transparent as possible with our following. And in turn, hopefully, when people invest with us and they feel comfortable investing with us, they see that if we're willing to share our mistakes with the world and our following, like we're going to be transparent throughout the entire transaction as well, and just let them know what's happening, and just be truthful, ethical people, really.
Yeah. And to kind of give back to the community, just the real estate investing community too, because a lot of education that we had kind of moving up into the ranks was mainly like free and like bigger pockets or buying a book here and there. Like we have invested probably over like 50 or 60K in mentorships and stuff. So that was a big catalyst, but just trying to give back to people too, like who are like either just getting started or we call them like middle investors, people who have like done a few deals before. Like they're not new, but they haven't reached the peak of the mountain yet. So just trying to help those people like in that weird gap that they're in. So helping people is definitely one of our goals too with our content.
And
I
just
love it.
learn from our mistakes so that they don't have to make the same mistakes we did.
No, totally makes sense. Yeah. So why, so let's talk about like, so how do you grow a social media following, right? I totally get definitely being honest, being transparent, showing mistakes. I think that's amazing. I think that does grow social media content a lot. I think I've gotten the most reels on either my really bad days or the most views on my really bad days or like the mistakes I've made in my entire real estate career. But tell me real quick, like, what do you feel like people should do? Like, let's say we had someone on here, they're like, okay, what will what will I get out of social media other than obviously helping people is amazing and it is really cool. You do get like a lot of people coming back to you and being like, oh my God, thank you so much, right? Which is awesome. But what do you feel like you've gotten out of it a lot? And B, what do you guys feel like you've or how did you grow your following? Like what should people do if they don't have any following? Like what would be like the first step?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, like you need to tell a story and a story that will captivate people. Like earlier on in our Instagram, like we were posting a bunch twice a day, stuff like that. And it just wasn't clicking for some reason. We were putting a lot of man hours in, but we had kind of a come to Jesus moment, if you will, and is like we're not telling a story, and something's off with our content. Like the people have voted with their views, and they said no. So trying to craft that with like where we came from, what we're doing now, and then also, basically tell a story first, and then I think you've done a lot of research and masterminds. And
I have, yeah. So I think it's also just knowing who you're speaking to. Like, who are you trying to get your story across to, or who are you trying to talk to in this? And then when you're speaking to them, make sure that you're speaking to them like they don't know anything about real estate, right? So like using certain words, like instead of saying property, say house. Like just like more of those common everyday words, and what is it that they want to know? Like if you're speaking to a new flipper, they probably want to know, how can you buy a house to flip, right? Like what does the financing look like? Well, how do you find hard money lenders? What are hard money lenders? Like all of those little tiny things. And I've noticed too that a lot of people aren't necessarily super interested in like the deep educational content per se. They want more of like a quick little thing about it, and then they can do the research that they need to do for it. So it's being very quick with your content, since our attention spans are super, super low now with TikTok and everything going out. Like the reels that do the best for us are anywhere from the 4-second to the 6-second reels, where it shows just like a little bit of information on the screen and then the rest of it in the caption with the trending sounds. So that's just what our audience likes.
Specifically with Instagram.
Right. And just sharing more of our story, like I wish somebody would have told me this before I started flipping. I wish somebody would have told me this before I started buying rentals, or something like that. It's like you're telling them what you wish you would have known, and vice versa. Like these are 3 banks that you can use to flip a house, to buy a house to flip. Like, so very simple terms and getting your point across like you're speaking to a 5-year-old, really. Like somebody, it's just super basic, very easy to understand and grasp for just like an everyday person.
Mhm. And there are some things that you can do to like give your video the best chance, or your reel the best chance. And it's like using trending sounds that like are about to pop off, or keeping it to 4 and 5 seconds, and doing more like text videos versus like the talking head. There's what we call them, like the selfie, you know, like, hey, this is, and then going off on a topic. So just like transitioning your content to what the consumer is looking for.
Right. And also like just think about what you watch, right? Like what are you watching? What captivates your attention? Like the next time you're scrolling, like watch yourself, like kind of keep an eye out. Like what keeps you on the screen, right? Like if you're reading something like, oh, that's cool. Why is it keeping you there? And just try to see what your habits are like on social media, and then learn from those and implement it into your content as well, so that you get those people that are now like watching your stuff.
I think that's the best piece of it. Like you gave a ton of really good advice, but that last part is really one of the best ones that I learned, was that like, it should not like, nothing against you, Don, but that was really, that was solid from Janelle.
Better half.
But like, yeah, like literally, I think like that key thing is like the first thing that I think anyone should do when watching social media or doing social media, is just like watch what keeps your attention. Like I don't need to even re-say it again, but just like, why are you watching whatever you're watching? And then replicate the reason why. Don't replicate the exact same content, but replicate the reason why you're watching it. So I love that. Let's talk about I know we talked about goals. I know we talked about fears. We talked about social media a little bit. I'm curious why you guys have only hired one VA. I feel like you guys are definitely ready to hire a lot more. If I had to give a guess, that's probably the biggest problem, is you guys are basically doing most everything then, if you guys have only hired one VA.
You are
100%.
So that's the next step, basically, is just let's hire VAs to start like doing stuff, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yeah, basically we do. We need to hire more people. I think yeah. I don't know why we haven't hired more people.
I think
go ahead.
I think it actually goes back to a fear too. It's like there has been some scarcity mentality, like, oh, well, what if we can't pay this person? Or like it definitely, even just hiring a VA at like either $5-10 an hour, like it gives you that responsibility and almost like a motivation push. Like, hey, I have to provide like for my own business to be able to pay this person. So that's actually been a good motivator. But it was the, I think, fear of like actually spending money on our business instead of like getting like a $15K wholesale check and being like, okay, I have to make this last for like 2 months before I need to do another deal. So that was something we struggled earlier on with too.
I agree.
Yeah.
I just think you guys should be hiring a lot more. You guys should, I would create a list of literally everything you guys just do online. Because I was very curious, because I remember you were just saying that like Don, like, oh, Don needs to order something, like, or like I need something ordered, I can't do it right now, Don, you do it. That's a very VA type of task, right? To just quickly go order something on Amazon. So I definitely think that would be helpful. I'm going to throw it out there. What challenges have you guys had with hiring right now so far? Like, what do you feel like you guys are missing? Because that can help a lot. I've hired a ton of VAs at this point.
Yeah, I honestly think it's like, it's looking for the VA. Like if I could get a VA even for social media, that would, oh my gosh, that would free up my time so much for me to do other things.
That's definitely a nice hire.
Yeah, it's looking for that person and like going through the interview, finding them, training them. Like, I don't know why that just seems so daunting to me that I'm just like, forget it, I'll just do it myself.
Yeah, and we haven't monetized our social media very much. We've done it a little bit more with like affiliates and brand deals, like stuff like that. Because we haven't been like, we do have a free community, the middle investor community, and that's being switched over to Facebook, like a Facebook group. But like it's not like our goal isn't to be like the next guru or coach or something, which is how most people end up monetizing. So we're actually creating revenue to be able to invest in our social media. So that's coming soon.
Yeah, and I think it's just for hiring, it's just like what do I give them? It's like, I know what I do, but what would they do? I don't know. It's like the strangest thing.
It's fear of giving up control. I think, for,
that's what it
for
is
you
too. I'm just like, I do not like that. Like, which is also one of the reasons why we liked investing out of state, because I wasn't physically there. So if something went wrong with the property, I was forced to rely on somebody else, because I would have gone there. I don't know anything about plumbing, but I would have been there trying to figure out why the pipe was leaking, like stupid. Need to call somebody. So I think that's probably what it is too. Just like relinquishing control over something is, not my favorite.
Interesting. It's a lot of mindset stuff. Definitely relinquishing control. I mean, think about it this way. What if you had never relinquished control for the contracting, right? Like, what if you guys were doing all the repairs, right? Like, how crazy would that be? Could you imagine, right? You're basically doing that right now with the social media, more or less.
Yes, I am. And I'm over it. I need to find somebody else to do this.
You guys are inspiring me. I'm going to create a YouTube video on exactly how to hire a VA. That's going to be the next YouTube video for sure.
I'll watch it.
Tag me, bro.
I know.
I will. I'll tag you guys. Here, I'll give you like the rundown real quick, and I'll just give everyone the rundown just real quick without like being able to show it and all that. The easy way is I'll just tell you my story. We'll go a little bit into my story that I think will help you guys out, right? How I did it was I used an agency. I personally wanted Latino VAs just because I speak Spanish, and also like I like the idea of them being on similar time zones. They're a little more expensive, but they're still really good, right? I hired an agency to hire my first one, and then I kind of fake fired him from the agency because the agency wasn't doing anything after that. And then if they're good enough, you just go to them and you're like, hey, I have no idea how you hire Latinos in, like, I just don't know how Latin American people find jobs. Like, you know how to do it. Go create a Trainual. Do you know what Trainual is? Do you guys have Trainuals?
No.
Okay, so that's a software you guys should get. I don't have an affiliate for that, but that's a software you guys should get. It's basically like an SOP creator, more or less.
Cool.
So it's where your entire business could live, right? And you guys do you guys know about Loom?
Yes. Love
So
Loom.
what you do is you connect the looms, you just put the looms into Trainual and just label them, right? Hit me up after the podcast, or we'll talk after the podcast. I have a guy who creates SOPs. He's not that expensive, but like basically he can help you create this whole process of creating SOPs. That's where you'll create like a business. So it's not just all in your guys' head. It's also on the screen, right? There's got to be like somewhere where it is.
Yeah.
Create the Trainuals for whatever you want them to do. And things you don't know how to do, just hire for it, right? So like I still don't know how to hire Latino VAs. It's in my Trainual, and I'm like, if you guys don't know how, review the Trainual, right? And so it's in there at this very moment, right? And so that's like the easy way. There's also onlinejobs.ph, right? I don't know if you guys have heard of that. That's like the Filipino one. You just post a job ad there and then people apply, right? And lastly, I'll give you guys a book recommendation on how to hire. I think how to hire, that one's really hard to outsource. I don't think it's a great one to outsource. I think it's one that actually know how to do for your business. Who and A Method for Hiring was like one of the most revolutionary books for me on how to hire. It's what I use to this day. It's one of those books I like literally like have next to me. Wow.
What is that again?
So I don't know. I think I might be having bad internet connection. Are you guys hearing everything I'm saying right now?
Yeah, we heard it.
It
was like 2 seconds. It was fine.
Nice.
What was the book name again though?
Who and A Method for Hiring, and I'll put it on here too for the audience. It is the best book ever. So anywho, that's my little advice, and I might just do that. I might go through like a whole YouTube video on how to do that. I think that'd be pretty interesting. So
nice.
Yeah, could be fun. Cool. So we're getting to the end of the podcast. I'm going to end this. Look, there's one question I love asking at the very end of these things that I want to know your guys' answer to. And it's, if you could go back to right when you were starting in real estate investing, what would you tell yourself then, knowing everything that you know now?
Oh my gosh. I know. Do you know?
I have some ideas. I have a few things to tell.
Excuse me. I would honestly say, don't be afraid to flip and wholesale in California because I think that was a really big limiting belief just because of how much capital we had and stuff like that, that I felt that we were forced to go out of state. And I do feel like that kind of, halted our growth a little bit because we weren't in the market. We were learning a brand new thing. And I think if we would have been able to figure out California, we would be a lot farther along than we are right now. And I would also say to just literally stick to that one thing. Like, do not bounce around, because I have big FOMO. And so I was like, let's try Airbnb. Let's try long-term rental. Let's try flipping, wholesaling, all the things. And then we'll figure out which one we like the best. And so like we were just running around in circles. So for years, I feel like just trying to figure out what our niche was going to be. And now we know, which is great, but still, like if we would have just stuck with one thing and mastered it, we would be so much farther along than we are now. It's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a piece of advice that I would give myself too with investing, even like being a mortgage broker, like I would have wanted to, or I would have worked for someone that was actually doing the thing at a high level. So like for example, for wholesaling, I maybe should have worked for New Western or something in the California market, or for mortgages, like I should have worked for PennyMac, which is a large national like call center loan officer type gig. So it's like learn how basically systems and processes are created for big companies that are working. And then, yeah, you're not getting 100% of the commission or whatever, but like basically educated, like learning first and then earning, as like Alex Ramosi has put it.
Yeah. I would also say that, like, I think in the beginning, we were very, very, very loyal to some specific people, and we let those things get in the way of what was best for us and our family. So I would also say that, like, honestly, business is business, and you need to do what's best for you and your family instead of putting other people ahead of what's best for you and your family. Because I feel like we did that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What do you mean by that? Like, that was very vague. Can you explain that more? Or is that too personal, or?
Yeah, no. Yeah, just how like I feel like we stuck around with specific brokerages or specific mentors because we felt like we owed them for helping us get our start or just helping us in some way. But like our growth was being hindered by staying in those spots. But we just felt bad leaving, honestly, even though we knew that was the best decision for us. So we should have done that a lot sooner and just made choices that were better for us and our family rather than try to make other people happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or continually working with like one specific partner. And then just because like you've done deals in the past with them, it's like the grass is actually greener on the other side. Like you want to have lots of different options to partner with people. So just, yeah, I would say more her answer, but just me is like 2 cents.
I love it. I love it so much. Yeah, no, perfect answers. Makes total sense. Guys, we're heading to the ends of the podcast. What do you guys want? Where do you guys want people to do deals with you? What do you want? How do people reach out to you? Is there anything else that you want me to promote on my podcast or whatever? Like what are the things you want people to know about you, and where should they go? I see your guys' Instagram, all of that good stuff.
Yeah. Our Instagram is the easiest way to get a hold of us. I'd say I'm still the one, obviously, because I don't have VA or anything, but answering all the DMs that come through. So if you send us a message there, it'll be me answering. And we do have a free digital book that we like to give out. And it's literally exactly how we find deals from 4,000 miles away. So how we find deals in Cincinnati while living in Maui. It's our exact process on how we do that, how we built our team, how we found our boots on the ground team, all that kind of stuff. So if you DM me the word book, I'll send that right over to you.
Love it. I love it so much.
I would say too, like if we're always looking for raising capital. So if anyone is looking to invest, like we have some opportunities coming up as well, but DM us on Instagram first.
And if you have a deal in Cincinnati, send it our way. We'd be happy to look at it.
Love it. Awesome. Guys, any last words before I wrap this one up?
I I don't think
I
so.
would say, yeah, the best thing to do is not being afraid of failing, and just doing reckless action. I think is super important to do, but having just being logical and a student about it, because
Mhm.
again, pretty much all of the things that held us back were mindset related. So just we're really working on that, and that's a big key to unlocking your real estate business.
Yeah.
I love
And
it.
there's everything you face or that you're afraid to face, someone has probably already did. So if you just continue to network and listen to those podcasts, they're going to hit different. The books are going to hit different at different stages of your investing career as well. So like just don't let those fears or the scarcity mentality, limiting beliefs stop you from doing the thing that you know is going to set you up for life.
I love it. Beautiful way to end it. I appreciate you guys. Stay after for a little bit. I love talking to people afterwards too. Everyone, that is Skorch the Fears, episode 121. I forgot who we have on next week. Sorry, guys, I didn't look at the thing, but we'll be there next week. I'm also doing a podcast with Daniel Quijano. We're starting episode 1 Tuesday. I'm going to talk more about this. This is the first time I've announced it. It's going to be awesome. Going to be not just real estate related. It's going to be fun. Janelle and Don, thank you guys so much. You guys are awesome people, awesome guests. And that's Skorch the Fears, episode 121. Let's freaking go.